Hi, I'm Miavi, and today I'm going to be working with foam clay. Welcome to the shop. So, foam clay. This is an amazing product, and what I mean with amazing product, it's so cool to work with and you can do so many fun stuff with it. I have here 3 colors of foam clay. I've got white, black, and gray, but they are essentially the same thing. So if you buy the white one, you get the same product as if you were to buy the gray one, only there's a color difference. Why would you have a color difference? Well, sometimes you just want black underneath as a primer, sometimes you want white underneath for a primer. If you want to make a pastel something, white might be better. We also got gray because that fits really well with all the foam sheets we have here at the shop. So to transform this bracer into something magical, what I'm going to use is obviously some foam clay. I'm also going to be using some cling fill to put the foam clay on and some Flex Bond or Plastidip, I'm not really sure yet, to prime. So foam clay, what is it? Well, it's basically just foam, but it's damp with some kind of water or activator, which means that you can mold it and you can sculpt it into whatever shape you want. It takes about 2 days to dry, but if you have a really big product, it might take a little bit longer, but normally 48 hours is about as long as it takes. You can use it just on its own, like clay, and sculpt it into whatever you want, or you can use a mold, push it into the mold and wait until it dries and then take it back out. So if you've got a really cool skeleton head, you can put it in there and then have a cool foam skeleton head. So it is a really fun product to play with, but there is sort of a learning curve if you want to make something that looks somewhat decent. There are some tips and tricks that I'm going to be sharing with you later in the video. But know that you can basically start over from scratch if you mess up. If you build something, you make something, and it sucks, you can basically just flatten it back down and start over. So I'm going to start working on my bracer right now. For that, I'm going to use some type of platform, and I'm going to cover it with cling fill. Why? Because this thing, it sticks to everything, and you don't want to try and rip this off something when it's all done and dainty and delicate. If you use some cling fill, you can just take it back off. Also, a bracer, if you hadn't noticed, is round. And if you want to put something that is flat on top of this, that's not going to work. So I found my reference. I'm going to be using a deer head that I'm going to put on the bracer. To get started, you just take some out. You don't need as much, but to be honest, just take as much as you think you'll need. It'll be too much, but you can always take it back off. Okay, so I'm going to start by making the general shape. Though I'm not going to make it too big because this thing isn't too big. So I'm going to make a bowl, like a roundish shape. And then I'm going to put that down and sculpt on that. I'm going to make him look mad. There we go. There we go. Ooh, this kind of looks like one of those skulls that is on Reaper's face. I'm going to get a paintbrush to stick it in there. Because, you know, tools. If you have some kind of crack and you want to correct it, just dip your finger in some water, go over it, and it should fix that. Actually, you don't need to worry too much about like fingerprints or seams, because afterwards you can just Dremel those out. Also, if you have a piece of foam, it's getting kind of dry, just put it in some water, just a little bit, and knead it again, and it should get back to its original state. You just put it in there, boop, and it sticks to itself. Right now, it's really light, but when it's dry, it's even lighter. It dries to 1/3 of its original weight, which means that, for example, for antlers, that's going to be super convenient because it weighs next to nothing. Okay, so I'm done sculpting. I'm done molding my clay form into its shape. But like I said, I molded it on a flat surface, but I have to put it on something that's pretty round. That's why I put down the cling fill, not only because I don't want it to stick to the platform I'm working on, but also because now I can take it off and put it on top of my bracer, so it takes the shape and the curve of the bracer so it stays on nicely. So I'm going to use a cutter knife for that. cut out the cling fill and then stick it on my bracer. Ooh, look at that, look at that. Hey, I got it. I'm gonna put that on there. And I'm gonna gently, look at that, shape it down. I realized very quickly that the sides of the antlers weren't gonna stick down, so I used some pins to just poke it in there. There is gonna be a slight hole in there, but if you use some quick seal or even just some primer on there, the hole should completely disappear and you wouldn't be able to see anything from it. So now we just have to wait. It takes 2 days to dry this. If it's still wet to the touch after 2 days on the back, you can just hollow that out and wait about half a day more, and then it should be completely finished. So I'm just gonna put this right here and I'll be back. And I'm back, and as you can tell, I look entirely different. It's been about a week since we last left off. It takes 2 days for the clay foam to dry, but the longer you wait, the drier it gets. It's not gonna fuck up if you wait longer than that. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take the pins out, I'm gonna extract this beast from its bracer and glue it on using contact glue. There we go, and as you can tell, the back has taken the shape of that, and it's all like nicely turned. I'm using the back of a paintbrush to smooth on the glue. You could use the paintbrush itself, but then it would be dead. You will never be able to use that paintbrush again. So there we go. All right, there we go, it's glued on. So now I'm going to take my Dremel and Dremel out some of the wrinkles I got. After that, I'm gonna plasti dip it. Before we start dremeling, safety first, wear a mask because you do not want to be coughing up a lung because you were dremeling and not having a mask. And if you don't wear glasses, I suggest safety glasses as well. I'm just gonna use mine as it's my own. They are gonna fog up. That's gonna be really awkward. After dremeling, I'm going to use my plasti dip to give it like a coat or 5 so that it's all sealed in. It's all plasti dipped, now we can paint. So I was thinking about doing the antler head in gold, so I'm gonna use rub and buff for that because it's easy and it's pretty. And the bracer itself, I'm gonna do brown so it looks kind of like leather and add some black shading, some highlighting in there. Rub and buff is really easy, you just use your finger and you rub and buff. That's kind of what it does. You take it on your finger and you place it on there and buff it in. It's super easy, super pigmented, and the end result looks absolutely fantastic. If you want, you can use a paintbrush as well to get into the little tiny holes. So now it's all nice and gold. I'm gonna use some black to shade, because now it's super flat and non-dimensional. Using the black, I'm gonna shade and make it more three-dimensional. All right, now that the shading is done, all I have to do is make this brown, make it look like leather, and then we're about finished. I'm shading the bottom of the bracer while the bracer is still wet with the brown paint, because then I get a really cool wet on wet blending effect, and I just think it looks cooler. And that's it, we're done. If you want to use any of the materials that I've used today, you can buy them at the CosplayShop. Links are in the description down below. Thank you for the shop for letting us use these materials, and thank you for letting us use the workshop here. You can also come here and work if you want to do that. If you have any suggestions on what we want to make next, you can leave them in the comments below. And that's it for me. Bye.